Welcome to Brain Soup, where we use our noodles and talk all things science, philosophy, psychology, people, tech, etc., etc. My name is Fernando Mogel.
Cal Miller.
Ryan Shazadi.
All right. So, what do we have to talk about today?
Well, one, you obviously have this book. We're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
But I think we have one pressing matter first.
What's that?
There's some seagulls we need to talk about right now. Maybe like some bird thing.
Bird? Oh, birds.
Oh, the aviation, aviary.
Do you want to? All right. So I think, in the
It's a little bit more pressing than the Age of Wonder right now.
I mean, the Age of Wonder. I mean, can't discount that. All right, cool. So I guess getting started and everything. I mean, I was looking into to a company that pretty much probably everybody that's lived in like a city or around these different kind of areas, especially in Texas. I mean, I remember I was in Austin. I saw them start coming out. Is the scooter company?
Well, it's funny. I saw them. Well, I'll let you.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I saw them first in San Diego.
San Diego.
You saw them first before you.
Probably. I was in Austin though, so I don't know.
Back in 1989. Not really. All right. I'll take it back over to you.
All right, so I guess I lost. Bird. We'll talk about Bird a little bit, which is a scooter company that was coming around the same time as Lime. I'm sure everybody kind of knows the two. You've seen them in the same spots. They go after the same markets, everything like that. But these are two entirely different stories on what happened, how it scaled, how everything kind of turned out. I think it's extremely interesting to look at different things, especially on the metrics of Bird, and as time has gone on, even looking at their stock price all the way down to their business practices, and seeing how they actually where they ended up from where they started. Really has been an incredible journey. Not great, but they're in a place now where I think they're pretty ripe for bigger companies to come in and start looking at those.
So just real quick,
if
I'm not as versed with what happened with Bird and Lime, exactly, like what is the main premise that's going on right now?
And I guess what kind of companies are they?
Outside of them being scooter companies that we can rent, that most of us see, honestly, y'all just talked about it just earlier real quick, so I don't really know everything that's actually going on with it.
So they're in a huge, this was a company that was valued at $1 billion at one point. Now you can actually technically buy the whole company for like $7 million.
Oh shit, all right.
If through hostile takeovers or whatever else, which is extremely, obviously not ideal for a company. So that's Bird's case. And Lime's side, on the competing scooter company, or the largest probably competing scooter company at the time, focused on getting to a point where they could actually have that sustainable revenue, right? So they did things a little bit different. They didn't focus on scale. And how I put this earlier is like a game of Risk, right? When you're looking at the board and Risk, you can see a ton of people where you're placing your people down. You get 30 or so people off the bat. You have a bunch of territories, I think it's 12, so you can't really fill it up too much. But in the beginning phases of the game, something that a lot of people kind of overlook, initially starting, obviously when you're experienced, these don't happen as much. But when you're starting, there's a problem always with scaling too fast. And when you do scale too fast, you spread yourself too thin. And this is something that you can see with Bird specifically. They scaled just way too fast. They expanded to too many cities. They increased expenses too much. And they also have a physical product, right? So these are harder to scale than, say, you had an app like Uber, or if you had an app like any type of software that's primarily
like a platform without any overhead.
Yeah,
that just facilitates the exchange of value between the two sides of the market, as opposed to providing the product as well.
Exactly. So that seemed to be they scaled physically into each of these different locations. I don't remember exactly how many cities they actually got into by the time they've got to this point, but they were operating the same markets as Lime. However, Lime, on the other hand, the same model, expanding fast, but you didn't, even in Austin, I didn't see them till later. So it's almost like you've watched this other company focus on the actual scalability and the taking things and actually monitoring your growth through more SOPs, through things that allow you to standard operating procedures.
Doing it more sustainably.
Yeah, actually scaling sustainably and revenue conscious to expense conscious as well. While not because a lot of people take Uber, for example, right? They were able to scale this point where they were making and they've never been like super profitable, but they've always been able to scale correctly, right? They made demand first, and demand had to change with the laws, whatever else is passed, because there's so many people using it. It's hard to take an organizational change and go backwards.
Yeah.
Could they have expanded as fast or scaled as fast if they had to own every car?
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't have any overhead in terms of
a
like
scooter is cheaper, right? If you just look at it that, like, how much slower would their growth have been if, for every Uber driver, Uber actually owns the car?
Exactly. I mean, like imagine. I mean, it's not possible.
Those are taxis before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, kinda. It's as if there was like taxis there for anyone to come and use the app to pick them up, but they still own the taxis.
Yeah.
It's like a hybrid kind of thing.
So they provided the car originally, but never put the apps together.
Exactly. But
Right,
like the
and
thing
this
with
other
taxis
person-
is this is what that's the only option. I mean, they had the market. I mean, there was only one market. There wasn't like, it wasn't like you could go and do anything. I mean, back in that time, they had no other option. They had no way they couldn't keep scaling, right? Until Uber.
Would we have Uber today if like one of those like yellow cab companies or green cab companies would have just made an Uber for cabs? And say it was just cab companies.
They would not be here. Uber would not be here if that existed.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
think
I
about
mean,
how
like,
many
it was
cabs
already
there
there. The organizational, like,
it sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, that's really the thing is like, these industries are being overtaken by the platform business model, by platform economics. Like Airbnb or, Airbnb, the biggest in real estate, doesn't own a single property. They create the platform where people can exchange that value. And, they make that easier for them to exchange that value.
Yeah, it's all like
algorithms,
service,
through matching, through curation, and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, Uber was the first, or one of the first to disrupt that. And yeah, once you kind of get the lead in that, it's a little harder to come in. The secondary player, it's possible. I mean, there's Lyft. And there are still other industries that have yet to be disrupted. Those that typically have like the medical industry, education, that still have those like traditional gatekeepers, a little bit more like heavily guarded by the old school kind of ways. But yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of disruption, I think, that happen in a lot of industries with like that platform business model.
Yeah, and I think you brought up the good point on Lyft and Uber. Like, I mean, do you remember when Uber was just dominating and like there was nobody?
Yeah.
And like, remember how Lyft's marketing campaign went, where they just
Jerry Rice.
Well, Jerry Rice. They also targeted. I mean, Dallas. I lived in Dallas when Lyft was starting to scale. So I mean, it was.
They put famous people in their cars, bro, and you had a chance to get a famous person driving you around.
Well, they did that, and then they also like did direct hard marketing, guerrilla marketing in cities that they targeted that Uber was already dominating. So they would target like Dallas. They'd target like cities like that. I don't know. I didn't see them really targeting Houston as heavy, but they would literally have at every event in Dallas like free lifts. Like, so you had to go outside and you would have a lift like guy with like a chauffeur hat on and all that stuff, and they would like guide you into the line and send you out to wherever you want to go for free. And like that's how they targeted like getting their name out in all these places. And it was just so cool to see that when somebody dominated the market as much as Uber did at that time, and you were watching this little guy come out, and you looked at him like a little guy. Then the mustaches on the cars and stuff, like the pink mustaches and all that, and it was just. I mean, I think it was just heavy guerrilla marketing. I mean, I've never seen a tech company go so hard on that side of things. Like all the branding, all the logos everywhere. I mean, you didn't go a block without seeing a Lyft thing.
Right.
And you remember all the street corners, like the tabs you could pull?
No.
Like they used to have on
during that time, I was living in a small city called Corpus Christi.
Oh man, it was crazy. They literally had on every street corner in Austin. There was like a pull tab, and you can get free rides from these. Like you would literally pull the tab and get a code, and you could type it in.
Oh wow.
Lyft and Uber both did it together. Like they're both doing that market. It was so
Heavy
cool.
competition.
Yeah, you could literally in Austin, like being there at that time, you could literally see the competition. So
That's
clearly.
crazy.
yeah, it was.
But
cool.
yeah, I mean, it's because similar thing happened with other this very building where we're at, the Ion, used to be Sears, and because they didn't innovate quickly enough, on the online scene, got taken over by the Amazons and
exactly owned the catalog, but didn't scale the catalog to the next place, right?
Yeah, didn't shift to that
The online
platform
presence.
business model.
Exactly.
Because they basically had the warehouses.
Yeah.
Like if you
They
think
had
about
the
how
products,
how
they have
Amazon
they
had to
have
build all
the
these
name,
warehouses.
the brand, the warehouse.
They had them.
Yeah, they have distribution, they have the overhead, they have the
They
brand.
had almost all of it.
They even
They had
had
the
it set up, right? With the
connections.
people who would come in and set the things you bought up.
It was all set up, dude. Like you could get your car done.
Yeah.
Too.
But that's the thing is, like, as a big company, you're slower moving. You pivot, more slowly, and so
Yeah.
that's the benefit of these companies. They have more agility, no overhead, bigger risks, quicker pivots, and
And they just get bought out.
Oh,
That's like the new model, right? Of the big companies, like, well, I do all
yeah.
the research sometimes, and we'll just buy the people when they
Mergers,
start it.
yeah,
Like,
mergers
you
and acquisitions.
like LinkedIn, like it's like, oh, they reached 40%, wasn't it like 40% market shares, and then Microsoft bought them. Like,
Oh my gosh.
or like big companies like that. I feel like that's kind of like outside of their own R&D. Like sometimes instead of going into like, to me, like volatile markets, they just kind of wait till someone presents themselves as like the flagship, and it's just easier for them to purchase that.
yeah, a merger and
And
acquisition strategy to
do
scale.
that instead, And so I think like while tech companies before were really to me, like maybe I'm wrong on this, this is completely just my own like thoughts on it is like the companies originally there weren't these big behemoths to purchase these tech companies that exist, right? So like when the first ones were coming out, like you didn't have these behemoths to go and buy them. You did in the sense of like maybe like Xerox or like Compaq, IBM and stuff, but they had the completely different like more like central focus of like physical products per se, right? Outside of the digital stuff or like IP stuff they were building, a lot of stuff was physical at the time, right? And so like I feel like Google, Apple, Microsoft, kind of these companies started growing, and if you look, a lot of their models now are, while they still do R&D and stuff, they do purchase people once they reach certain like market share sizes, right?
Yeah.
And so now you kind of have this thing of like the startup, like are you really like you can start growing, but like after a certain point you reach a certain size, like you're either, I guess, like kind of going to get acquired, or like is that point like when Microsoft decides of like, if we're not going to acquire you and you say no, like we're going to acquire someone else and dump this money into them, or we're just going to go hard into it because we know there's money there, right? And like so, like do you have this like you might get a fighting chance earlier on because no one gives a shit about the industry you're in,
And
or
they
the
don't
sector,
understand
or
it
the
or
niche,
whatever, yeah.
or whatever, right? But you start showing something after a while, like maybe it becomes value to them. Well, like, do they come in like if they were going to buy you for like say ChatGPT, right? Like, what if ChatGPT would have told them no? How far does that money they have go into a
It
system
is
like
an
that
interesting
already,
question
when
because
they could poach almost every single developer that had been on OpenAI. Got your IP without having to take your IP.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because I do wonder that myself too. Is because ChatGPT, I mean, you could ask like maybe if they had said no, maybe Microsoft has the capability to overtake them, with their own resources. But maybe ChatGPT has managed to have enough of a brand presence, following, and enough, I guess, of a head start to still maintain its status as like one of the power players and be able to compete and still. It's a good question. I don't know because I mean, I think other companies have managed to do it, like come into an industry and be the new, be the new Googles, be the new big companies.
but it's
like
okay,
as
on
an
that
exa- as an
statement- on that
as an
statement-
example,
hold on.
Uber, as an example, Uber, like who owns? Did anyone acquire Uber? I don't know. Like
I don't think so.
asking.
I don't think so.
public.
I think they're
Yeah. So they managed to another company could have easily acquired them, but they managed.
But it doesn't.
To,
But it didn't fit their models, right? So like a lot of other companies that get like bought up when they're like services or apps or things like that.
Yeah.
Like it's easily added to
Integratable,
like the G Suite, or it's easily added to like AWS's services,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's easily added to like an not open office, but like Office, like
Or like they
365.
complement their business.
And so it's very
It
easy for them
integrates
to
more,
take it
yeah.
and expand upon
Right,
that,
right.
right? And so like
Well,
for
and in
Uber
fact,
might
that's-
not be there, right? Because they might not have that like pre-set up
like the
system.
Yellow Cab should have bought.
Well, yeah, that would
quickly, man.
that would make sense.
That would have been the move.
Yeah. Well, and because that I mean that strategy of like is similar to like the strategy of a platform's openness. Like tech companies, what they do is they'll make their platform open to developers to come in and be able to use APIs or to create kind of add-ons or things, and then either eventually that allows the platform to grow. Sometimes they buy out that particular company or organization or module or whatever. Other times, if it's not competing seriously enough, they just let it kind of live in the ecosystem and provide an additional perk or service to the platform, like Facebook and its games. One of the books that I've been reading is this one, The Age of Wonder, written by Richard Holmes. Yeah, my tabs that are not really structured at all.
Apparently, he hasn't read all of it yet, as y'all can see.
No, this one's quite a hefty one. It's
half of it's
like a good 400
Nah.
something pages. No, yeah, I'm not.
Tabbed.
I'm not.
You can see it.
Huh?
Got a lot of.
Looks like a Bible bag.
Well, it's
This is a.
it's like a multi-biography. So Richard Holmes, one of the best biographers out there, renowned for his biography writing, and yeah, I mean this book is a mix of things. It talks about kind of like what's being considered as the second scientific revolution, like 1700s, 1800s. It starts with the story of the botanist and explorer Joseph Banks, who travels with Captain Cook and does a lot of discoveries. And then it moves on to like William Herschel, who's an astronomer. He was actually a musician who turned into an astronomer, and about ballooning and many different things. But basically, at the core is like that sort of the romanticism in science and all these innovators around that time. I had a
This
particular
is great right here. This one that I just flipped to, absolutely wonderful. People need to know this existed.
Oh, the young John Keats. Oh, the young John Keats remembered an organized game at his school in Enfield in which all the boys whirled around the playground in a huge choreographed dance, trying to imitate the entire solar system, including all the known moons, to which Herschel had by then added considerably. We should try that.
Dude, this is why I want people to know about this.
We have at least the sun, moon, and earth.
Continue. It gets worse. It gets better.
It gets worse. Unlike Newton's perfect brassy clockwork mechanism, this schoolboy universe, complete with straying comets, was a gloriously chaotic human orrery. Sounds
How
fun.
did you manage to just flip to that?
There was a tab.
Good tab.
It was his
Oh
last
yeah,
tab.
oh yeah, because I
Actually,
was thinking this
that was
would
his
be
last
like
tab.
a nice experiment, like
I want to see it happen now.
An
Like,
engaging
we have a
classical
parking
science
lot.
experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
We
yeah.
have a
We
parking
get all the
lot.
boys together, go
This,
outside.
Boys
like,
and
as
girls.
an educator, this is the kind of like interactive, fun,
That's
engaging
intense. Like, how slow
thing,
do you have to
instead of like
walk?
sitting there and doing
Like,
a worksheet.
If you were like, all right, if you were Mercury, right, and then the other person is like Saturn or Uranus, how slow does one have to walk compared to the other? Like,
if you're doing
like
this
if you're trying
Oh,
to
man.
set the like,
and then imagine if you're trying to get
the
the
moon.
well, yeah. And
And
imagine if you're doing the whole solar system and you're trying to be like proportional in terms of like distance.
somewhat proportional, somewhat, you know.
Well, have you been to the Museum of Natural History where they have like the proportional distance of like the?
We have that in Corpus
Oh, yeah?
on our seawall. We
Yeah,
have.
but I'm talking about somewhere like where people actually have gone to. Like,
Bro, step back.
I'm
Selena's from
joking.
there.
Corpus is amazing.
Step back. Selena's
Yeah,
from
I
there.
used to do Taekwondo
So let's
in
not-
Corpus.
let's
and I
not go
loved
there.
it. Yeah. He knows a joke.
He gets it.
He knows.
Well, he seems genuinely hurt.
The cameras
No,
have
but-
to turn off at some point.
But the actual tab that I was going to read was, around such a vision, romantic science created or crystallized several other crucial conceptions or misconceptions which are still around with us. First, the dazzling idea of the solitary scientific genius, thirsting and reckless for knowledge, for its own sake and perhaps at any cost. This Neo-Faustian idea, celebrated by many of the imaginative writers of the period, including Goethe and Mary Shelley, is certainly one of the great ambiguous creations of romantic science, which we have all inherited. Yeah, so it's like, I guess, the idea of the romantic view of this, the lone genius, who's in his laboratory by himself. And certainly there were those, but it's basically just trying to show science in the light of, there were so many contributions by so many different bright people of many different areas, industries, disciplines, and I mean, I think that personally just resonates. One of my favorite values is curiosity and wonder, so just thought I would talk a little bit about this book.
We should bring 3 of these in here sometime and just all sit here and
Just like a book club,
yeah, just like read.
micro book club.
We could make that like an entire different podcast where like we just read and no one says
Silently.
anything,
Silently.
and we just start recording it, and we read, and then the time's up, and then we just put our books up and move on away.
Reading time with us.
Well,
We can sit down and read.
Well, I remember I read an article about a guy who got viral because he forgot to turn off his streaming and he fell asleep and he became viral.
I
Like
remember
people were
that.
watching him
They just
sleep,
watched him sleep.
and they gave him like money and he became viral.
Right.
I don't
It's
know.
like a win when you wake up, but there's like a lot to unpack there. Right? Like you wake up and you're
You would want to go back and see if you did.
No, like your phone is like just all those notifications, or if you got all these donations, right? So like his email says like
you know?
99
How do I have $1 million
plus
in
or
my
whatever,
account?
and then you're like, how do I have all this money? So you have this moment of like, oh my god, this is awesome. Then you have the realization that you just streamed yourself sleeping for the last 8 hours, and that's what people were watching without you knowing.
Yeah, I would
Like,
go back to the finish scene like, oh gosh, did I like, you know?
did I roll over? Like, what happened?
Totally know yourself.
Like, it's like that great moment of like the streamer's like, I fucking did it.
Yeah.
And it's like everything you did was worthless, bro. It was you falling asleep with your thing.
Right, yeah, you worked hard.
But all that wasn't worthless is you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you were,
But imagine, like,
you were
all this
trying.
hard
Do
work.
it.
Something happened.
The ing.
Good for you.
All this hard work to like, you know, plan your scripts or your structure and like your
Nah.
segments, and no, what made it was you fell asleep.
It's funny when those things happen in life. I think that happens a lot more than.
It's great when I
Just-
just decided to go sleep one day and woke up with $1 million in my bank account.
Really beautiful.
Awesome. I remember like the 7 times that's happened.
Yeah.
At least. Look back at my life. It's
Not.
life is sleeping and money while I'm asleep. Cool.
Well, all right.
Well,
I guess-
yeah.
So
that was the
long.
most awkward.
Farewell
Like, goodbye.
to you, my friend.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye. No Gola Gola Island fans?
We don't need, huh?
No Gola Gola Island fans? So long. Farewell
Oh,
to you, my friend. Goodbye for now until we meet again.
Wait, isn't that out of the? Oh no.
No, it's Gola Gola
box.
Island. They played the bongos at the
Oh
end.
yeah, yeah. I
So
get
long.
that confused with
Farewell
out of the box.
to you, my friend.
I thought you were gonna say something else.
Was I gonna play like the end of the final, like Fast and Furious?
No. Isn't that the sound of music now?
That was like Oliver. Was it Oliver Twist?
I don't know. Maybe our
Not Oliver
listeners can
Twist.
tell
What
us
is that
in the
guy? What
comments.
is that? What is that show?
Out of like all the people that watch us, I wonder how many people actually have seen Gola Gola Island. I want to
I've
comment
never
on
seen
that.
it.
Be
I don't think so.
would nice to know because
What's it called?
Gola Gola's Island.
Gola Goal.
Gola Gola Island. It was a little like bouncing frog.
What?
Wasn't it? Was
Are
it
you
Gola
sure?
Gola wasn't it a frog that was on the island and the people lived like on this like kind of like islandy thing or whatever and it was like one of those little kid shows, little family
Yeah.
kid show like kind of like Barney was or whatever. And
Right?
any of y'all heard of Barney the dinosaur?
Doesn't ring a bell.
I may know.
Gola
him.
Gola Island?
Yeah, it's a TV show, right?
Yeah.
With a little
Is
bouncing
it a frog?
Frog?
Yeah,
Gola Gola was a
it's
frog,
yellow,
bro.
It's a yellow frog.
Can you click it? Make
Yeah.
it bigger?
I grew up with
show
these
the,
things.
Show the people also, because I gotta see this.
No, we'll put it on.
Oh, yeah,
we'll put it on.
Oh, yeah, we'll
Oh,
put
yeah,
it on
yeah,
screen.
yeah.
No, and then
you're
there were
right.
the people like, and then there was the two mom. There was the mom and the dad, and
That's
they would
the-
be the ones that played the bongos at the end when the kids left.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Well.
Well, on that note,
Let us know.
Out.
Let us know if any of y'all know what Gola Gola Island is. On that.
all right. Well, this has been another episode of Brain Soup. Keep using your noodles. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Haters, if you have any thoughts as well, we welcome them.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.